Welcome to the Scoop, World Order. Happy Saturday. Hope you guys are having a great day. Ohio State got some great news on David Sanders Jr. and Jakeem Stewart. We're going to break all of that down. As always, we appreciate you guys being a part of the show. If you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe. Also, click that little alert bell. Again, huge show because you guys make it one. It's a Saturday night. It's going to be a great night tonight. UFC 304 is off and running. We got some good picks from Dog Son Pop we're going to go through. And good news on the recruiting front. Right before camp is about to kick off in about a week, folks. It's here. Ohio State football is ready to rock. Maybe the best season in school history. I think it will be. So we're going to get into all that. As always, if you guys appreciate this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, click that little alert bell. If you guys want to really help us out, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Those are huge for us. We are growing our audio mediums right now. So we appreciate that. If you guys enjoy it a lot, leave us a review, a 5-star review. You can just click on the stars. You don't have to write anything. It's really quick, really easy, and it really helps us out. So appreciate you guys. I hope you guys are having a great night. I'm going to bring in my good friend Nevadabuck. Nevada, there was a lot made about David Sanders Jr. going to Nebraska and Tennessee, and Ohio State did not have a big barbecue or whatever this weekend. What were your thoughts on that? Was that a miss, or was that something that you thought was a good strategic move by Ryan Day?
Well, I mean, for Ohio State, look, they're obviously in constant contact with Sanders, and Sanders had basically told him if they had an event, he'd have been there. So, I think from their perspective with Sanders, they've showed him all that they need to show him. They've put an NIL deal on the table that they believe is certainly, while they're not trying to set the market, they may be setting the market with Sanders. And every indication they're getting from him is a buying signal. So they didn't feel like it was necessary for them to go in with one more event, basically it would have been almost like a one-man show type of thing where they brought him in and did it again. And I think they like where they're standing. There's an old adage about when you have the sales, stop selling. And I think that's kind of where Ohio State's at on this one. Some of these other programs, Auburn had put out a big thing about how, they're on fire. They've now got the number one class for 2026. And I'm like, that's 17 months away. That's on is 17 months away. I'm not sure if that type of those types of accolades or that kind of recruiting momentum is really going to hold up for that period of time. Ohio State in really good shape with this class, really good shape with the big dogs in this class. And they really like where they sit with David Sanders. That's all I can say is, from a collective standpoint, from an Ohio State standpoint, and from people closest to Sanders' standpoint, all signs are good for Ohio State. And I'm liking where we're at. I think we're going to have a happy ending here.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the only collective that's left standing is the foundation, and they feel really good about David Sanders Jr. Again, major props to Monica Daniels, who is Paris Johnson's mother, the former Monica Johnson. She's been outstanding through this whole process. They've basically been green-lighted to give him J.J. Smith style money, which is, top of the food chain type money. And, I think that there were some receivers that thought they maybe potentially could get money out of Ohio State and get J.J. Smith style money, but Ohio State wisely, very, very wisely, decided, hey, we're good. This year we got Chris Henry Jr. coming next year. We have to pay him. We're going to be straight this year. But if we can get us a 5-star tackle who could be a freshman starter, let's go pay him. And so that was kind of the decision. And again, when there's any sort of, again, there's things that have unintended consequences that actually end up being great for Ohio State. When kids pick elsewhere, if a kid goes to Oregon or Texas A&M or wherever, it frees up some salary cap. So you can get a little bit more aggressive when there's a premium target that you're like David Sanders Jr. is as premium can get. He's a kind of building block franchise type player who has a great family, great parents, very, very involved, very, very sharp, a lot like the Sanchez family, who is an excellent addition. Because again, obviously the number one thing far and away, and again, I'm not trying to make light of this or whatever, far and away the most important thing is can the kid play? Can he really play? Can he ball? Is he that guy? Is he going to be a cornerstone in your room, in your cornerback's room or your offensive line room? But the secondary equation is, what could he potentially yield down the road? So again, like with a kid like Paris Johnson Jr., I mean, his mom is as dynamic of a recruiter as there is in the country. And she's been very active on this one. And again, Paris Johnson Jr. is the guy that David Sanders idolizes. And I think that it's not lost on him that, hey, this guy literally just had my dream career. He had my dream career, 3 and out to the league, graduated. David Sanders Jr. is a really sharp kid. He wants to graduate in 3 years. He wants to go to the NFL after 3 years. So Paris just did exactly what he wanted to do. So why would you, again, as Nevadabuck has said a million times, the Trailblazers get the arrows. Like, Paris Johnson already proved that you can do it. I mean, the plan is infallible if you follow it. Is David Sanders Jr. smart enough to accept the plan along with the biggest NIL deal on the table? I think so. That's why I feel better every day. I know there's a lot of people think he's going to go to the SEC. And if he does, well, again, we'll survive. But I think that what he wants to do, and the fact that a guy that he's very close with idolizes what he does, starting left tackle for the Arizona Cardinals, Paris Johnson. Like, I think that it wraps up to a very nice package because Paris will mentor this kid. Paris, like, this thing about the brotherhood is these guys will come back and help this kid out and give him advice and how to navigate things going forward as a freshman, junior, sophomore, or excuse me, a freshman, sophomore, junior. And can he be thrown out? His tape looks like it can. Nevada, what about Jakeem Stewart? Jakeem Stewart's the guy who's been, rumoring to reclassify. I think that one of the major deals going on with modern college football in terms of like this past 6 months or a year is, if you're a kid who potentially can reclassify and get a huge NIL deal, you have to consider doing it. I think that, risking playing high school for another year, you've only got 2 ACLs, Achilles tendon, whatever is the worst case scenario in terms of an injury. I think that you can avoid that if you can reclassify and become a 2025 instead of a 2026. What are you hearing on Jakeem Stewart? Again, I love our chance with Ohio State and Jakeem. What are your thoughts?
Well, we've got a great insider called the Helping Technician who's got a special connection to the Stewart recruitment. And he put out a post today saying that we're trending for Stewart. And to me, that was a real eye opener. He's been very, very deliberate in terms of, what he's saying about Stewart and what about our chance with Stewart. He's been very measured. And to hear that, really, really good news. That's really, really big news as far as I'm concerned, because Stewart would be, one of those monster type of gets, one of those, seismic type of pulls that, Ohio State can only dream about in previous years. But now it looks like it could potentially become a reality. This unbelievable defensive line, recruiting terror that Larry Johnson's been on could continue. And like I said, when Helping Technician says it really got my attention because he's a guy that would know. Some people guess, some people have an opinion, some people throw out things, but he knows what he speaks. And, really big news, really big development as far as I'm concerned with Jakeem Stewart and Ohio State's chances, which I think are certainly trending upward.
Yeah, I agree. And again, I think that Larry Johnson is a guy, his resume is obviously impeccable. It's impossible to top LJ's resume from the number of guys he's put in the league since he's been the D-line coach at Penn State, followed by Ohio State. It's nobody can touch the guys who've gotten drafted high, gotten huge second contracts. He's been the GOAT. And again, I think that as much as people wanted to, dig a hole and throw him in the dirt and put dirt on top of his grave, like I think he's got a lot of gas left in the tank. I really do. And I mean, this is not other than just an observation. Like, I mean, he's making, I think, $1.2 million this year to be a D-line coach at Ohio State. So that's a good life. Like, he's not at Akron making, less money and with a bad team and they might get ran through. Like, he's coaching the best players in the country. He has a huge NIL budget to get some of these best players in the country. And he's having an insanely productive recruiting session right now. I mean, he's beating people left and right on the kids he's getting. And they're committing because, again, as much as people love Ohio State and the Buckeyes and the tradition, those kids want to get developed and they want to get technically, hammed up by the guy who's the best. I think he's the best technique coach of all time for that position. Again, I've got an exquisite amount of experience against Larry Johnson because I played against his D lines for 4 years. Always played hard, always really good technically, always on point. And I told him that when I would see him at camps or at clinics, I would say, I always had a lot of respect for you because your guys would lay the wood on us I mean, they were tough as nails. They played hard. Again, in '05, I said this a million times. You guys watch the show all the time. Like they rushed the field goal. Which there's a lot of teams where when it's a field goal rush, they kind of take the play off. They take it easy. Not Penn State, man. They blew my knee out on a field goal because they went hard and they threw a long snapper into my plant leg and blew my knee out. So cost the CO5 game. It was a tragedy, but is what it is. But I respect him for that. Again, he has his guys play hard. They play hard for him. I think I'll have a deeper rotations here. Nevada, any other thoughts? And we can dig into some super chats.
No, I just think. Look, we've talked about the kind of the ascendance of Brian Hartline, of Tim Walton, of James Laurinaitis as recruiters, but the renaissance performance here by Larry Johnson may be one of the big stories of late because he has been on an absolute tear. As good as he's been as a recruiter, I don't think he's ever been better than he is right now. This is as good as you could possibly be. He's just killing the game, and if now all of a sudden we're in a position where we've got Walton going, Laurinaitis going, Hartline going, and then Larry Johnson has just started crying. I just don't know where you stop this Ohio State recruiting juggernaut. And you already got Coach Locke, who I think is one of the most impressive guys. I know they've had him all over the place, helping with all sorts of different guys. But there's a reason. Great guys make for great recruiting, and nobody's recruiting at a higher level than Larry Johnson right now. And it's just it's fun to see a guy doing it at his age, and like you said, when people doubted him, because people aren't doubting him anymore. That's for sure.
Yeah, again, I know people are obsessed with, he might retire, he might whatever, but it's like, some guys are lifers, man. And especially, again, he coached high school ball for 20 years, and he coached at Penn State for 14 years. He's been with us for, it's crazy, it's been 10 years now. He got there in 14, won the Natty. But, those first couple of years you're coaching in high school, you're not making, serious coin. And now, all of a sudden, to be a position coach making seven figures is appetizing, I guess, if you're a guy that really loves it. And again, coaching D-line, it's tough, but it's not like coaching O-line. It's one of the easier positions to coach, but he's so good at it. He's so technically sound. And again, when you got the horses, it makes your life way easier, man. When you're at Ohio State and you play Akron and whoever, Western Michigan or Central Michigan, and then Marshall, and you got to get ready to go for about 2-3 games a year. It's not like he's at some gig where he has to really crank it up. There was a time when Jim Haycock, who's one of the greatest coaches in Ohio State history, one of the most underrated coaches, coached for John Cooper, coached for Truss, did not get retained by Urban Meyer in 12, which again that's fine, but he was given opportunities to go coach at Kentucky and some other schools post his career at Ohio State, where he could go be the Kentucky D-line coach. But, dude, when you got to coach the Kentucky D-line, you got to go against LSU and Bama and Georgia and Florida and Texas A&M and Arkansas. And you're just like, that's not very fun because you're not in the same league. Where it's different when you're at Ohio State. You get to go against Purdue and Michigan State and Rutgers and whoever. So you've got 9-10 games a year where your guys are just gonna maul the people in front of them as long as you stay straight. So there's different worlds for that. So I get some super checks. Nevada, G Chima for life. Thanks for the 5. What do you think about Oregon's way of recruiting, Nevada? Do you think that they can buy your way to a natty, and how does that compare with the way OSU does things? What are your thoughts about it? I'll let you start with this one.
Well, look, I have a lot of respect for Oregon. I like Oregon. I like Oregon's program. I like Lanning. I think that they've been ahead of the curve on so many different things. And so, Oregon's kind of a guilty pleasure of mine. I know people like to bang on them, but I have a lot of respect for that program, and certainly the way that they ran right through us last time we played them. I take them very, very seriously as an opponent. and not only this year but in future years in the Big Ten. Um, I mean, look, their strategy is really simple. It's they've got the coolest gear and stuff and outfits and technology, and they've got Uncle Phil throwing almost unlimited money in NIL for them. And um, can that work? Sure, that can work. I mean, they talk about culture. I mean, are there potential culture issues? Are there potential, law of unintended consequences? Yeah, but remember, everybody in college is 3 or 4 and out. You're not talking about 10 years, 12 years, 15 years. You're talking about the whole program turns over in 3 or 4 or 5 years. So if you're getting the best players and or some of some of the best players, your share of the best players, and you've got a good coach and you've got a great fan base and you've got a great following, hey, they're going to be a handful. So I think the way they're doing it is the only way you can in a state where you have no recruiting base. I mean, Oregon has virtually, I mean, we've got very few African Americans in the state of Oregon. Very, substandard high school football in the state of Oregon, and almost no recruiting base. I mean, they're not in Texas, they're not in Florida, they're not in Southern California or Ohio or wherever. So they've got to make do with what they have, and they're doing it. And I respect the heck out of them. So I think they're going to be a worthy opponent, and I think it's going to. I think the Big Ten, when it initially got in, it was like USC, UCLA, Oregon, Washington, and I think people are looking at USC as being the big bad wolf, which they're going to be. But Oregon's going to be the tough out here for the next few years, and I think that's a real thing we got to watch out for.
I mean, to me, I think Oregon is the most well-run program in the country at this point because they figure out ways to be appealing to kids. Now, obviously, now they can pay these kids. Obviously, that's a big way to be appealing is to pay Trey McNutt and pay some of these 5-star kids. But they're in Eugene, Oregon, which is the armpit of the universe. There's not a lot of direct flights there. You're getting these kids from Texas and South Florida and now Ohio, wherever, and it's terrible to try to get there. It's not a desirable part of the country, and they have no in-state recruiting base. Like, you let me know when's the last time, and again, someone put this in the chat, look it up for me. Who's the last player that we've signed at Ohio State from the state of Oregon? I mean, I know we got G. Scott and Jackson Smith-Njigba from Washington State, but like Oregon, there is no in-state talent whatsoever. So they do things about the hardest way possible because they're in the upper. I mean, most of these kids, if you say, hey, here's a map of the United States with the 48 contiguous states. What one's Oregon? I don't think many of these kids would be able to figure out which one's that. So, but they've developed a brand. They wear different jerseys every week. And again, the guy that doesn't get enough credit, who should get a statue in front of the stadium, is Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly's the guy that's like, well, we're going to practice different. We're going to run. We're going to go fast. We're going to play music at every practice. We're going to make it super hip, urban, whatever. So all of a sudden, and obviously I know that I'm not stupid like with the Willie Lyle stuff, and I mean they're greasing guys to get these kids from Texas to go to Oregon, but they didn't have any advantages, man. They're like, if you play a game of Civilization and you have the worst resources in the world, that's what Oregon is. They're in the furthest part of the country away from South Florida, which is a huge detriment from Georgia, wherever. But they're competitive and they believe in what they're doing. I think another major issue with their program is they aren't viewed as a destination job. They're viewed as a stepping stone job, which is why Chip Kelly left. It's why Mario Cristobal left. I think that's a major issue there where, guys, and again, Dan Lanning got paid a fortune, and that's why he's still there. He's not at A&M. But I think that was something that, Phil Knight had to rectify. And obviously Phil Knight is one of the greatest legends in the history of the United States of America because of what he did with Nike. And he's passionate about Oregon. I mean, that's why their facilities have been cutting edge for 20 years now. Their track stadium, I mean, everything about them is all because of Phil Knight. He's made them into a very, very contemporary, cool brand. And I think that it's fascinating to watch this guys. And again, I bet very briefly. I met Phil Knight for about a half hour before the 2018 Ohio State Michigan game. He was at Shelley Meyer's tailgate. I talked to him for a half hour, and I told him, I was like, I love everything about you. I read your book, Shoe Dog. I think that you're a genius, and whatever. And it was funny because he was wearing an all-black Ohio State Nike cap. And I was like, that is an amazing hat. I love it. And he literally said, give me your email, and I'll send you one. And he did. And I was like, and again, no context in it, so I'm not like me and him are buddies, but he did that. Like the next Monday, I had a hat from Phil Knight. But it's impressive what they do, because they do things, again, in terms of marketing. Because again, we bang on Ohio State's marketing department because, again, we have the worst sports information director in the country. Jerry Emig is as bad as it gets. Oregon shows up to the Big Ten Media Day. They've got a giant duck in the river. See there, does that mean anything? No. Is it creative? Yes. Would we ever think to do something like that? No, because that's what we do. We don't try to do anything outside of the box or anything funny or creative. And that's why at Oregon, they buy a billboard in Times Square with Joey Harrington. That's why they do all of these kind of different things, because they have to, because they're in the upper reach of the country, and most people don't even know where Oregon is. But if Ohio State would ever adopt the things that Oregon did, we'd never lose. We'd be unstoppable. We'd win more major awards. We wouldn't get beat by Scooby Wright, versus Joey Bosa in all of the major awards. We wouldn't get waxed because we don't promote our kids. I mean, Oregon does a great job when they have a shot. Again, Marcus Mariota won a Heisman. We haven't won a Heisman since Troy was there. So again, they know how to promote guys and do the best they can with what they have. Nevada, any thoughts before I go to our next super chat?
No, I totally agree with you. I think, look, some of the stuff they do is campy, or we can laugh at it or say, oh, we'd never do that, or that. But man, the kids love it. And, new uniforms every game, new helmets every game, new gear every game. That's cool. And, us old heads can go, oh, I like the tradition, and I wouldn't do that. The players love that stuff. And who's your target audience? It's the players. So, I mean, Oregon gets it. And I think they're a lot of fun. And, like I said, they're just a fun program to watch. And I'm sure glad they're part of the Big Ten, because the Big Ten is just the most exciting conference in football, without a doubt. And it's going to be that way, and going to get more so in the future.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like Ohio State is like the Golden Sear in Vegas, which is like the best off the strip, old school mafia steakhouse. But Oregon's like STK, cooler, contemporary. You can learn, like, if I was an Ohio State brand manager, or heaven forbid I'd be the SID and would actually be good at what we did with putting these kids, I'd study the crap out of Oregon, because how they do what they do, being in the middle of nowhere, having to play West Coast time zone games. I mean, it's amazing anybody sees any of their stuff, because if they have a night game in Eugene, it kicks off at 10:30 or 11 at night. So the whole country is usually in bed or fading fast, and they watch about a quarter of it and they doze off. So Pooh Beard 12, thank you for the 5. I appreciate you, my friend. Thank you for the Ultra membership as well. When you say that the foundation is the last one standing, what is happening with 1870? There are a bunch of big time players signed with them. Well, 1870 is basically done at this point. Again, I don't want to speak too freely on their demise, but I projected that when I saw who their leadership was. I knew that they weren't going to do well versus the foundation. And again, we had Cohesion, which I thought would be a disaster. It was a disaster. It failed miserably. 1870, when I saw who they made their salesperson, and they hired Tyves. Tyves is a nice kid, but come on. And again, so now their one salesperson and Tyves are both removed from the website, which means they've been fired from 1870. They could not raise money. They failed miserably at every corner when they tried to do a spring game sale, where they had basically, you could bid to be like the associate position coach at each position. So you could be Ryan Day's assistant, or you could be Justin Fry's, or Tim Moulton, or James Laurinaitis' like assistant. Like I don't know if they might have sold one of the 20 spots that they offered because they don't promote it. They're not good at what they do. And it was a disaster. And then they were given another opportunity this summer, where they were going to do watch the team work out at the St. John's Arena and buy a ticket, buy a table, buy a VIP, and come watch the team work out at St. John. Absolute disaster, absolute failure. Didn't raise any money, didn't sell any tickets. They had to cancel the event, which again, like, if you get any sort of number of tickets sold, you can at least have the event, even if it looks like a disgrace because there's nobody there. But it was their ticket sales were so bad that they didn't even have the event. They ended up moving those guys to a morning lift, and the kids got out of there. And, so eventually, like, the rubber meets the road. Again, Gene Smith basically had those guys on life support for the last 6 months. And, Ross Bjork showed up. And Ross Bjork, in 2 months, has done more for NIL than Gene Smith did in 2 years. So Ross figured out, well, these guys clearly can't raise money. Ross wasn't politically motivated like the former athletic director was, and he decided, well, you guys raise way more money, so let's throw our support behind one unified collective, and that's why we have the foundation. They're the only ones standing now. Learfield is taking over a lot of these deals for 1870. So again, I hate that we're always right on the scoop and we're always first, but this is one where it's like, I mean, I would probably weigh 165 pounds if I ran as many victory laps as I needed to, but that's where we're at. And again, people that doubted me on this are foolish, if not stupid, because again, I'm just really big on who do I, if I got to pick a horse. This was like when the foundation entered the race versus Cohesion in 1870, it was like Secretariat versus like 2 mules, excuse me. And I was like, well, one, I know what their circle runs in. I know the biggest owners that follow Ohio State, that donate to Ohio State. I know who they'll back. And I was right. And again, like, I don't like always being right, but it just kind of happens because I just use deductive reasoning and say, who are they going to really support? So, Brian Schottenstein, Bill Lewis, Tommy Heilman, these guys that are all on the foundation, like serious dudes, very serious hitters in Columbus, big time networks, big time ties. And they're the last ones standing. So, again, thank God for those guys because, when we wanted Caleb Downs, they stepped up. We wanted Quinshon Judkins, they stepped up. When we wanted Will Howard, they stepped up. So J.J. Smith, they stepped up. So there was a time where Gene Smith, who, again, the end of Gene Smith's career at Ohio State, like the last 18 months of his career, was about like the end of the Titanic's initial sail in the Atlantic Ocean. He hit the iceberg 18 months left and taking on water. And he's at the bottom of the ocean now for as bad as he was. Because he set us back months, if not years, in terms of fundraising. Because if we were just thrown behind the one collective that actually raised money, we'd be way further ahead. But again, we're still doing great. We still have the best roster in school history because of the foundation. So, again, like Ross Bjork is a godsend in terms of just being intelligent, just following the money, just figuring out, hey, this is the monster we need to feed because they produce and they're fantastic. So, again, I'm really excited about the future. I think our NIL is as good as anybody in the countries, including Oregon, including A&M. I know who donates. I know who does the fundraising. I know everything that you'd ever need to know to be very confident about the NIL program. And again, there isn't a person on this earth who's more excited about it. Even J.J. Smith and some of these guys who have these huge deals, I'm more excited than they are because my long-term success, along with Nevadabucks on Buckeye Scoop, depends on Ohio State being good. RNIL is absolutely killer thanks to the foundation, and even more so thanks to Ross Bjork, because he finally, figured out, hey, these guys are really good. We should support these guys, as opposed to let's keep these guys stuck in the mud for an eternity. Nevada, your thoughts?
Yeah, it was weird. It was legitimately weird the way that Gene Smith was trying to set up these collectives. And at one point, he'd kind of banished the foundation to being just the basketball collective, which was super odd. And, he kind of designated somebody else as and the fact that the collectives that Gene Smith personally backed are both literally out of business now. And being out of business in the collective business means you just couldn't raise any money. That's all, because you don't need to have. There's no other special skill that you need to have, or no other technology, or you know, no other first mover advantage. All you need to do is have money. If you have money, you're a viable player in the NIL game. And they just couldn't raise money. And you know, they had a little kid running out there, like some 22-year-old kid running, and we just knew that was not going to work out. But you know, to me, it's not so much that we were right about it, but boy, was Gene wrong. And when you have an athletic director that can't even pick the proper collectives on something that was so obvious, it was just troubling. And I think it you know, I know some people out there like Gene, and that's fine, but he just, I mean, that in and of itself is kind of scary. The fact that he couldn't even identify, after, you know, multiple tries, which collective was going to be, you know, the last man standing on this. But as you said, at least we got it right now. We've got it right with the right president. We've got it right with the right athletic director. We've got it right with the right coach. We've got it right with the right collectives. And now we're all pulling in the same, you know, on the same oars in the same direction. And it's, I mean, the future is super bright for Ohio State, and I'm going to enjoy this team, this kind of dream team of admin and collective and staff, as long as we can, because man, nothing lasts forever. And if we know anything in life, nothing stays static. Nothing ever stays, you know, in one spot. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. And right now, it almost seems like it can only get worse, because it's hard to imagine a better group of guys than they have running it right now. And very proud to be part of the Ohio State University family, and very excited to be a fan.
Yeah, and again, I don't like to bag on Gene, but when you're just that grossly incompetent, I again, you guys show up here to know what's really going on. This isn't pablum. Again, I watched all of the other podcasts attack the foundation, support cohesion, support 1870. Oh, they're the adults in the room. Oh, they're going to run it the right way. And I was like, well, you know, again, I'm not going to name names, but go look at every other podcast, you know, a year ago, and when they're saying, oh, well, this is going to be the one, and this is the one the athletic director is going to behind. I was like, well, I'm not going to get into the reason why they backed those guys, but if you guys have brains, you guys can figure out pretty quick why they backed them versus Brian Schottenstein and the foundation. But I will say that they were all catastrophes. You know, again, like Gary Marsick is a good man, very good person, know him very well. Financial plan. He was Gene's financial planner. They tried to get him running cohesion. He is not going to raise money from his billionaire clients to do that. So that was a disaster. And then 1870, the people that run that are vile. They don't know what they're doing, and they were a disaster. So then the foundation comes along. The only nonprofit where, you know, Brian Schottenstein makes $0, Bill Lewis makes $0. None of these guys make any money doing this. It's not a for-profit. None of those guys take salaries. They kind of do it out of the goodness of their own heart, which is insane to me because it's a lot of work. But I'm just telling you, Ross Bjork, Ted Carter, monstrous hires. And again, our fundraising, and I'm meeting with some of the biggest donors in Ohio State over the next 2 weeks. I've got my calendars booked up with people I'm meeting with that are the biggest donors in Ohio State, and I can't wait to see these guys. And universally, when I talk to them, over the moon about Ross Bjork, over the moon. Like I mean, it's like a complete 180 from the old guard. And again, I've heard horror stories that make me want to, you know, puke about what I've heard, you know, from the old guard. And now that Ross is here, I think that we've got a monster on our hands. And again, I think Ohio State is going to hit the platinum era for the foreseeable future. Again, I know people think that this is the year and the next year might be a little down. I was like, the way that we're going to fundraise and the way we're going to raise money with the transfer portal now, we ain't going to be down, folks. I'm just telling you that. All right, Nevada, Matthew K, thanks for the deuce. How much stronger is our brotherhood? I think ours is pretty good right now. Like, you see all these little cute things, like CJ Stroud has got Devin Sanchez at Houston Texans camp, and guys are tight. I mean, I think that the problem with the brotherhood is I just think that it's good marketing. I mean, there's a lot of players that hate each other internally. That's just part of life. You know, if you work for, most of you guys work for organizations, or you guys are teachers or whatever you guys do, there's always like people that like each other, don't like each other. There's cliques. It's no different from Ohio State. And again, I'm going to have Troy Smith and Jim Tressel on the podcast this week. I'm going to get that framed up and scheduled. So like, I mean, there are guys that I love. There's guys that I don't love. There's guys that love me, and there's guys that don't love me. And again, and that's the same situation across the board for basically every player who's ever played Ohio State. So I think that Ohio State is, I think, a stronger organization than most, just because we've had so much success and we've got some really great kids that have played. Like CJ's a beacon. Paris is a beacon. Guys that are really, they really feel responsible to keep the program really strong. That's why Devin Sanchez at Houston Texans camp kicking it with CJ, and Paris Johnson is active in helping recruit David Sanders Jr. and being an asset there along with his mother, Monica Daniels. I think that all adds up, but I think every organization from Ohio State to Oregon to Michigan to the Houston Texans, Dallas Cowboys, whatever, there's always some people that are ahead, some people that are behind, some people that like each other, some people that don't like each other. So I think that, to just uniformly say that there's a brotherhood that is like some sort of a utopia where everybody gets along, everybody loves each other, doesn't exist. And I'm just being real. I mean, I know that they like to say, oh, it's the brotherhood, but I mean, come on now. Like, there's some guys that I played with that I would die and go to heck for, and then there's some guys I wouldn't cross the street to save. And again, and they'll say the same thing about me and elsewhere, because kind of is what it is. I mean, like I said, that's kind of just life in general. Nevada, your thoughts? How much stronger is our brotherhood?
Well, let me change. I have a little different view about what the brotherhood is and what the brotherhood means and stuff, because like it's unrealistic to expect that in any complex organization where you have a lot of people from diverse backgrounds from different places, that everybody's going to love everybody just because you're all part of you wore the same colored jersey. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen in business. It doesn't happen in life. It certainly doesn't happen in football. It doesn't happen in Ohio State football. But what I would say is being part of the Ohio State football family is different. And it presents, they talk about, you've talked often about life after football and about how basically, I don't want to speak for you, but you talk, often to me about how everything you have is kind of a function of you playing at Ohio State and being an Ohio State football player. And, so many good things have come from that. And I think that's real. I think the benefits of being part of the Ohio State family, I think that's a real thing. And I think that's different. That's not the same way everywhere. That's not the same way at USC. It's not the same way at Oklahoma. It's not the same way at Oregon. At Ohio State, it's different. There's a different connection with the team, with the business community, with the alumni groups, with the people. And I've often said that, you can make a really good life for yourself by just being nice to people if you're next Ohio State football player, because that's kind of the golden ticket, because it's the coolest thing. All of us as fans all dreamed about running out there in the field, and guys like you, Kirk, had the opportunity to do it. And you did it well enough that that you and I share a tree outside in the Buckeye Grove, which is very exciting for both of us. I think that that part of the brotherhood to me, I think, is real and different and lasting, and certainly is one of the many benefits of being an Ohio State football player.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to argue that. I mean, obviously, like, I think that Ohio State, again, I have a ton of people that ask me, Kirk, should my kid play football? Should my kid, head injuries and trauma and broken bones? And I'm like, well, Ohio State football kind of gave me everything. I mean, again, it's kind of like Maximus. I know he died at the end of Gladiator, but everything that he got was because he was winning in the arena, until the very end when he got whacked. But it's just like, I think that, what Ohio State can do for you is crazy. I mean, again, you see guys like Archie Griffin is the greatest example of all time. And I love Archie Griffin. Archie Griffin is nothing but you want to talk about a guy who's always on. That guy is always on. He's always on point. He's always kind. He's always He always says, I love him because I see him at the games in the suites. He's got his hat's down like this, and he's just hoping nobody sees him. But like everywhere he goes, man, he's always on, man. He's taking photos and smiling, and golly gee shucks, thank you so much for, oh, you're my favorite player, Arch. Oh, thank you so much. And take a photo. And Arch is always that guy. But, Ohio State is special if you use it correctly. Because again, like there's some guys that are operators, they're douchebags, they wear their rings everywhere, and they promote that they played at Ohio State and they won Big Ten championships, even though they didn't really play, or they didn't start any games, or they never started a game, or they were backups or whatever. And they operate like starters, even though they shouldn't be. But I just like to move kind of covert. And again, the guys at the top of the food chain at Ohio State, like I'm talking the very top, the big decision makers, they love me and they love my show. And I've had people that I couldn't believe stopped me at Ohio State football games in the Huntington Club say, I watch your show every night. I love your show. It's awesome. It's so entertaining. It's fun. And we appreciate you. And I'm just like, you watch my show? Oh my God. I was like, can I please just have lunch with you at some point so I can learn like how you've made your gazillions of dollars and stuff? But that's kind of where we're at. I mean, again, I love Ohio State. I love everything it's done for me. But I also, again, I've learned from the best guys like you, Nevada, and a lot of these guys where it's like, just be understated, chill, be very grateful, thankful. And, if you get a meeting with these guys, make sure you show up, man. Because some of these guys, they're surprisingly easy to meet with because, again, a lot of Ohio State football players don't say thank you. And they don't say, hey, I'd love to meet you. Hey, I'd like to bring you, one of my hats from Buckeye Scoop, or I'd love to bring you a mug or bring you a hat from whatever, So it's kind of funny because, like, I've had guys that are exceptionally influential in the Ohio State world, guys who's, their names if I said them, say, Kirk, you're the only guy who's ever come to see me before. I'm like, seriously? I'm like, you really, with all that you do? And he's like, oh yeah, you're the only guy that's ever called me. And I'm like, okay, well, that's why we're different. That's why we're the Scoop. Jim Jackson, appreciate you, brother. Thank you for the 5. Hey, Kirk, is there going to be another merch drop before the next meetup? Hope you and the fam are well. Nevada OH.
I
think, I don't know if it'll be before the next meetup because we try to space these things out. Again, we're not trying to be merchandise you guys to death. And you guys, oh, here they come again with another merchandise drop. So we like to space it out. We like to do like maybe one a quarter or one every 2 quarters or so. We did the last one a couple months ago. Again, we had a great meetup at Twin Peaks. It was fantastic. But yeah, I think that we'll try to get one done before the season. The merch has been on fire. I wear it all the time. I mean, literally, I wear a Buckeye Scoop every day. I mean, if you guys ever see me out and about, if you guys ever catch me not wearing Buckeye Scoop, I'll buy you guys lunch or whatever because I wear Buckeye Scoop every day. And I wear our merch every day. And I love to get our merch and give it out to people and tell people, hey, make sure you wear it and go to the gym and go to the grocery store, go to Target, whatever, wear our gear. Because like we don't spend anything on marketing. Like I am the market. We don't spend on Facebook ads. I say, hey, here's a hat, wear it on camera, wear it in front of people. Get people questioning what Buckeye Scoop is and get them to sign up. So works out good. Nevada, your thoughts? I mean, me and you, we've talked a lot about this. About doing about a quarterly merch drop. And again, if you guys are listening, if you guys want to do me a huge favor, a monstrous favor, please let me know what you guys like in the comments. You guys want to, obviously we're going into summerish, September-ish, it's not quite fall yet. I mean, so I don't know if it's hoodie season, if you guys like t-shirts, what brands do you like, what colors do you like? Again, we're up for all stuff. We did Carhartt last drop. People ate that up with a spoon, went crazy for the Carhartt stuff. It looks great. Nevada, what are your thoughts? Jim Jackson again, thanks for the 5, says, hey, Kirk, is there going to be another merch drop before the next meetup? Hope you and the fam are well. And Jim, I hope you and your wife are well, and I hope that your wife is having a lot of success with her new business. Nevada, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we're planning on having like a merch drop. The plan would be like right before the season, probably before Christmas, and then one other one maybe around the spring game or something like that, and or Father's Day or something like that. But yeah, it's, like you said, we're trying not to. We don't want to overload people with merch. We want, when we have the drops, we want it to be unique and special and have different items and have people look forward to them. And like I said, we've only done 2, and they've both been monster drops. We sell a lot of gear. We could sell a lot of gear if we wanted to do it, but we just don't want to do it. That we just don't want to overwhelm you guys with it. But yeah, give us some ideas on what you're looking for. Really helpful, so that we can kind of tailor make the the next Scoop merchandise drop to really meet your needs. And yeah, that would be super helpful if you guys can help us out by putting that in the chat.
Yeah, and again, we really try to keep the prices low. Again, we try to keep them very competitive and low, because we know that, for the folks, like, we want to, it's more for us about, we got to charge something because of what the stuff costs and shipping and printing and everything else. But it's more about the pride that we have that you guys like to wear our gear around. I mean, again, on BuckeyeScoop.com, we have people posting photos in front of the Eiffel Tower and, monuments in China and Great Wall, and they're wearing Buckeye Scoop hats and shirts, and that's the greatest thing in the world to me. Like, there's nothing that makes me happier than knowing that someone's wearing our gear on the other side of the world, walking around with people. Again, Jennifer and Arnold Thurman were wearing Buckeye Scoop stuff, walking around Europe, all through Spain and the Louvre, and taking snapping photos there. It's the greatest thing ever. Like, there's nothing that makes me happier, because it's a logo that I literally designed, and I was like, this is what I want it to look like, and we designed it. And to see something that came to fruition, like, because of what we did and what we've grown, it's incredible. So again, we appreciate you guys. Tony Turley, the king of Toledo, what is up, brother? Thanks for being an Ultra member. Thanks for the 50, my friend. I hope you're doing fantastic. Gentlemen, what are the odds that NIL will eventually lead to the athletes being considered pure employees of the universities, which will then eliminate any requirements relating to educational attainment and, of course, Nevada OH?
I
think that the universities will fight that till the end of time. I don't think it's, I don't think it's ever going to happen, because, again, what's the biggest reason why, athletes will not be considered pure employees of the university? Because then they'd be entitled to workers' comp. So when these kids get maimed and screwed up playing football, like, all of a sudden they're on the hook. Like, if you're at, like, your regular job and like Tyson Gentry, one of the greatest kids of all time, a kid that I played with, 06 spring, he gets hit by Kurt Coleman, never moves again. He's in a motorized cart. It's not like the movies where he's going to stand up and walk one day. He's literally in that cart for the rest of his life. And so all of a sudden, if he's got workers' comp, Ohio State's on the hook for, permanent, total disability for the rest of his life. And I'm talking, that's millions of dollars that they owe Tyson because of the pain that he experienced and the injury he suffered. I mean, again, I think that they don't want that heat. I don't think that, again, with the some of the rules that are in some states, I mean, the laws in California have gotten much stricter, but there was a time where, any athlete who's ever played could qualify for, it was basically like a cumulative trauma award from the state of California. It was a very liberal state, very liberal award, where guys that, could play 1 year in the NFL and they could get some huge, award because they have a bad knee, and here's $500,000 or $1 million. And if you multiply that across every single player in college football, like, it honestly would put a lot of colleges out of business, because I think that the thing people don't realize is with the National Football League, and again, there's a guy named Alex Fairley who is one of my best mentors when you're in the insurance game, who is the greatest sports insurance producer, legislation writer of all time. He has the NFL as a client. The NFL has one market right now for insurance, one, because of head trauma. Head trauma takes those guys away from writing most of that stuff, because the awards are so astronomically high due to a lot of the more liberal jurisdictions that these teams play in. So I think that universities will fight these kids being employees until it's over, because as soon as they do that, half 3/4 of the schools would be out of business. They couldn't afford to play football because of the insurance costs, because of workers' compensation. This is my opinion. But again, I know I say I'm right about it, but I'm definitely right about this one because I've lived it. And Alex Fairley, who is one of the greatest geniuses in the history of insurance, he is the greatest sports insurance person in the history of the game. And he's a great friend of mine, great mentor. Told me all about this, and I was like, "There's no way that Akron could have a football team because the insurance costs would basically bankrupt what they were trying to do." So yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. If it does, then it's going to go away. Nevada, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think they would only do it if they were forced to by the courts. They're going to do everything they can in their power to avoid that. It's really what makes college football unique and separate. It's kind of the charm of college football, let alone all of the legitimate workman's comp and insurance, issues for why they'd want to. They would only do it as an absolute matter of last resort because they were absolutely forced by the court system to do it. And it doesn't seem like there's like a political will to make that happen because I think most people recognize the difference between college football and professional football. And so I'm hopeful that under these new NIL legislation and the way things are moving, I think that they're moving away from that, and I hope they can find some sort of a middle ground because I think that would be bad, detrimental for college football, and I that wouldn't please me.
Yeah, I think it'd be game over for college football. That's why they're going to avoid it at all costs. I don't think it's ever going to happen because the flip of it is because again, there's people. There's athletes that always argue, oh, well, we should have insurance and coverage. And I'm like, well, okay, well, the flip of that is if you're an employee, guess what? You can be fired. So do you want to have a bad day? Do you want to miss class? Do you want to be have a couple of bad practices, get fired? Because again, like in the National Football League, where you do have insurance, you could get fired. You're not well employee. I mean, they can, again, coming from a guy who got cut multiple times his rookie year, for things like, that you can't even control. Like I said, we had a fullback break his ankle in practice, and they had to bring in another fullback off the street. They cut me on a Friday, tried to bring me back on a Monday, and I got claimed by the 49ers. So I had to go to San Francisco instead of staying in Miami. So again, you might want all that insurance stuff, but man, when you're an employee, if you got a couple bad days, man, they can just fire you and get rid of you. If they figure out that you're not good enough to play, it's just like the league. So. Again, be careful what you wish for, because I know people are like, oh, we got to have, these processes and this, but I'm telling you, it's a slippery slope. Ohio 7715, thank you for the 20. Appreciate you, my friend. Do y'all feel Oregon will be surprised by the physicality of the Big Ten and that they are a little overrated this year? They will adapt and be very good, but I question them this year. 24-25, Natty Lock, Nevada OH. I don't think they will be, man. I think I like Oregon, and again, I'm not trying to be Mr. Oregon Duckhead guy, but I sat with Kevin Pryor, 50-yard line, lower, and I watched Oregon physically manhandle us in 2021. Denzel Burke was a freshman. Quinn Ewers was on the team still, and Ryan Day panicked in a major way in that fourth quarter, calling plays, and I don't think they're going to be surprised by the physicality because, when they had Mario Cristobal, they set the tone. They're physical. They bring in Dan Lanning, who's a Georgia Bulldog DC. I think they're very physical. Again, I know that they wear lime green and yellow, and they do. They ride out on a motorcycle with Donald Duck, but I think they're a physical unit. I don't think they're going to be surprised with the physicality. I think that they're kind of a lone wolf in terms of physicality in the Pac-12. I think they're the most physical team in that former conference. And I think that's going to carry over to what they're going to do in the Big Ten. Nevada, your thoughts?
I don't think they'll be surprised by it, but it's definitely going to be different for them because, like you said, they might have been the most physical team in the Pac-12, and they might see one or two other teams that during their season that they play that can kind of raise that level of physicality. The Big Ten, you see it a lot, and I think that'll be a change for the travel is going to be a change for them. And I think there's a lot of, nuance that comes with that, with the game times and, big noon kickoffs and, other things like that, Oregon's going to have to get used to. So they've got a lot of things that they're going to have to deal with being a West Coast team, being out there, but they're formidable. Um, but tough things for them. But they got a really good team. But we've got a team for the ages this year. So second place, isn't bad, but it's not first place. And the first place is going to be the Buckeyes this year.
Agree. All right, Nevada, let's wrap this thing up. UFC 304 cranking along. Any final thoughts?
Just look, we've talked about Dagestan Poppy. He had another 2 monster bets tonight. Both of them have already won tonight. So if you're not following Dagestan Poppy, you're basically just like throwing money away because he literally gives away his picks for free. And if we've been pimping him here, saying follow him on Twitter. He's got president handicapper. He is absolutely. I really truly believe this. I believe he's the best mixed martial arts handicapper on the planet. I really do. He's bottoms up, does everything organic. There's, he's not steam chasing. He's not following anybody else's picks. He's an originator. He's setting the market for the stuff. And if you're an Ohio State fan, you can even reach out to him through DMs and say, "Hey, can you help a brother out and send me the pick?" He'll send you the picks. He's such a good guy, huge Ohio State fan, and an absolutely on fire MMA picker right now. So if you're not taking advantage of that, please do, because he's literally handing out free money right now.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys. As always, if you enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe. Also click that little alert bell. Again, we appreciate you guys kicking it with us all night, every night. Again, another huge night of great coverage for Ohio State football. Again, we appreciate all you guys do. Huge show because you guys made it one. So thank you. Shout out where you guys are watching from. Shout out who you guys are watching with. Let us know, what do you want in that next merchandise drop? Let me know. I mean, is it red, white, black? What brands? Carhartt, Nike, Adidas, Patagonia, whatever you guys want, let me know, because I want to give you guys what you guys want. I appreciate you guys so much for all that you guys do. Hope you guys have a great Saturday. UFC 304 is about to kick off. It's going to be a huge card, so we're going to get into all that as always. So I hope you guys, again, have a great Saturday night. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. We will talk to you guys tomorrow. Go Bucks.